Hi everyone, so today I thought I would talk about what I've learnt since I became vegan in 2016. The annoying thing is I already recorded this video, but I must have had my phone too close to the microphone and I had a lot of feedback, so now I'm doing it again, so I'm just understanding the YouTuber's struggles when the audio isn't right, and actually the best thing you can do is just start again. So this is what I'm doing. So yes, so I went vegan in 2016. I did touch on this a little in my introduction video, I believe. I mentioned how I watched 3 documentaries which changed my life, and that was the 3 documentaries I watched. First was Cowspiracy on Netflix, and Forks Over Knives, not sure where I watched that exactly, and the final one was Earthlings, which I watched. And after I watched those, I decided to go vegan overnight really, and it was just a bit of a process from there. So that's a brief introduction to why I went vegan. So what I've actually learned since I became a vegan in 2016, the first thing is cheese. So before I went vegan, I was mostly a vegetarian. I say mostly because I didn't carefully check labels or anything. The reason I was a vegetarian was because I didn't particularly like the texture of meat. So yes, and cheese was something that I had a lot. I was obsessed with cheese. I would have it on every meal, cheese on toast, cheese sandwich at work. You know, it was cheese everything really. And I did notice that I don't do that anymore. Now that I'm vegan, I don't have cheese on every meal. I don't feel the need to have a cheese sandwich all the time either. It's just not something that I crave, which does make me think that there's probably something addictive in dairy cheese that makes you keep wanting more. Because I do have my favourite vegan cheeses. I'll leave links in the description for these because they are really good in my opinion. So Vegusto is the first one. I'm not sure if they're actually making that one anymore, which does make me really sad. I haven't been able to get that one in a long time, but it is an amazing cheese on crackers. I did used to buy stock up on these for Christmas time because I thought it was just perfect for crackers. And the second one that I just love is mozzarella, which you can buy from the Vegan Kind supermarket. I will leave a link to my affiliate link for that one because I love that a Vegan Kind does this mozzarella because it's just beautiful. They use it in the ZZ's chain on their pizzas, and it's it melts really well, but it's got a really sort of sauce texture, which is really nice. The flavour is just good. I like it. It's definitely one of my favourite vegan cheeses. But then, like I said, it's not something I have with every meal anymore. I so rarely have cheese that when I do, I just truly appreciate it. But getting back to what I was saying, it's definitely, there must be something in dairy cheese that does give you that sort of addictive, can't get enough of it sort of thing. And of course, because it's dairy, it's quite fattening as well. I'm not saying that vegan cheese isn't. Obviously anything processed is okay in moderation, but of course dairy is made to grow a baby calf into a full-on cow, so it's bound to be a lot more fattening if you think about it. So another thing that I've learnt is that vegan is like a swear word, and what I mean by that is, if you're a vegan yourself, sometimes you can be a little bit, let's say, reluctant to tell people, or I certainly can, because a lot of people have had bad experiences with vegans, or they think that vegans are pushy, and so it just sort of gives all vegans this bad reputation. So for example, if I meet somebody for the first time, I tend to avoid saying that I'm vegan because it's a first impression sort of situation. I don't want it to be a negative experience, and probably because I'm a little bit awkward myself as well. I don't want to make it any more awkward than it already is. So yeah, generally I tend to avoid saying it in that situation, or yeah, if I first meet somebody, I will avoid saying that I'm vegan. It's only once they get to know me then I might say it, or it might just come up anyway, sort of thing. And it's not because I'm not sure of myself. I am a confident person. I know completely what I stand for and my beliefs and everything. It's just I don't like there to be any sort of negativity on a first encounter with somebody. I feel like that just sets the tone for the rest of the relationship, really. And so I'm not saying that my way of doing things is right and everybody else is wrong. Of course not. It's just how I like to do things. And I think perhaps some people would feel more confident getting it out of the way first. Maybe they'd find that a little less awkward, but it's just something that I practice myself. And like I said, it is purely because I don't want to be labelled as a pushy vegan. That's just not really what I want, and it's not actually me either. I mean, one of my younger sisters, she was a vegan long before me, and she didn't once preach to any of us. She didn't push us anything. It was just I'm vegan, and if we had any questions she'd happily answer, but it was nothing, there's no negativity or anything surrounding it. It was just, this is what I'm doing, and if we asked, this is why. And I guess I've sort of done the same myself. It's not something I bring up first with people, but in my experience, all my experiences being vegan have been pretty positive, to be fair. I've not had too much negativity. Perhaps a few eye rolls in the office that I used to work, but nothing bad, and people just generally seem to be quite interested. They'll sort of say, oh, what do you eat? And they're just curious, and that's fine. I don't mind that, and I'll answer all of their questions then. But it's just something that I tend to do, like I said, on first encounters, just to make things a little less awkward for me, because I am an introvert, so I'm usually quite closed off when I first meet people and cautious anyway, so just to avoid the awkwardness, really. So yeah, like I said, I have the greatest amount of respect for activists, people that go out, and I understand why they're doing what they're doing. They want to spread the word, and they want people to know that actually this is what you're eating. Don't be blind to this. Don't just go into a supermarket and pick up some meat and don't actually think about where it comes from. So I do completely understand where they're coming from as well. So there's absolutely no judgment here. I think maybe I'm a bit too much of a coward and introvert to do any of the activism myself, but I have a lot of respect for them anyway. So another thing I've noticed since going vegan is that my taste has changed dramatically. When I used to cook food as a vegetarian, the meals would be made around the meat substitute. So I'd eat a lot of corn in my food. So I might cook with peppers, mushrooms, that sort of thing, but it was all centralised around the corn. That was the main part of the meal, as it were. Now that I'm vegan, I've experimented for, obviously 4 years now. I've experimented with my cooking. I add as many vegetables as I can, and I try to use things like chickpeas, lentils and beans instead of the meat substitute. I mean, occasionally we'll have things like tofu as well, which is obviously a great source of protein. Not that we need it necessarily, there's protein in fruit and vegetables anyway, but tofu is nice and we love it in this house. So yeah, it's just, I know how to put all the flavours together to make it taste good. I'm not a chef, I'm like the furthest from a chef. I've got two extremely blunt knives that I use that my friend always gives me grief about, but they work fine for me, so that's okay. But generally I have just learned, I wanted to teach myself how to properly cook, and so that's what I've done. I know how to make things taste good for my family, and that's the main thing really. I mean, my son is a little bit on the fussy side, but I think he'd be fussy whatever I was cooking him, so there's nothing I can do about that. If you're not aware, being vegan, you find a lot of alternatives for things as well. So for example, to make something taste like egg, the trick is to add Himalayan black salt. I can't remember the full name of it. No, it's completely gone blank. I will try and leave that here. The Himalayan black salt has like a sulfur sort of smell and flavour. So when you add that to tofu, for example, it can really make it taste like egg. And there's lots of little tricks like that. So if you're not vegan already, there's so many cool things that you can do. You can even make meringue out of the juice out of chickpea water. So aquafaba it's actually called. Somebody discovered that if you whip that up, you can make it foamy and similar to egg. It's just, honestly, it's incredible what you can actually do. Another thing that I've learned is I generally feel better health-wise overall. So when my son was a baby, well, for the first 3 years of his life, he was a terrible sleeper, and so I was just constantly sleep deprived. And I remember the first year of his life I was ill a lot, and of course I was a vegetarian back then, so my diet probably was not compared to what it is now. So I have noticed with my baby girl, she's 10 months approximately, I can't remember, she's about 10 months, so I've been vegan the whole time, and I have noticed that I'm not ill like I was with my son, even though she's still waking me up frequently at night time, perfectly normal, just what you've got to deal with as a mum. But I definitely feel much better than I did. I can cope with the sleep deprivation a lot better because I'm making sure that I'm eating enough fruit and vegetables, and it really does work. I mean, people, they hear it said so often, eat so many portions of fruit and vegetables, it's good for you. But I don't know, I don't think people really absorb that, but it is so important. It really is important. And so yeah, I definitely feel a lot better than I would do. Today I'm very tired, but I would feel a lot worse if my diet was the way it used to be. So I'm very grateful for that, definitely. And I mean, it has been said that a plant-based diet has improved things like diabetes and Lyme's disease. All of these things it has improved. It's honestly, it's amazing. People seem to forget how important it is what we eat, you know. It's definitely got lost along the way somewhere. We need to get back to eating from the ground, you know. So yes, another thing that I've learnt is that vegan and cruelty-free are very different. So when I first went vegan, I didn't realise that when you look at skincare and makeup, for example, vegan and cruelty-free are very different, and you need to check for both. So first of all, you have to make sure that what you're buying is a cruelty-free brand and that they don't sell in China as well. Because, for example, L'Oreal, they claim to be a cruelty-free brand, but they still sell their products in China, and China by law has the right to test any products that come into the country on animals, which is obviously really awful. So any company that's claiming to be cruelty-free may not. If they sell their products in China, then as far as vegans are concerned, then that's not good enough. So it definitely pays to look if you weren't already aware of this. So of course the other thing to look out for, so first of all, you need to make sure it's cruelty-free. So usually it will have the bunny symbol on it to tell you. So the next thing you need to look out for is vegan ingredients. Now sometimes it's clear as day. Elf, for example, they are 100% vegan and cruelty-free brand, so you know what you're getting with them. But if it's another company, you have to check the ingredients for the obvious things like honey, beeswax. Another one that's included in there is cochineal, which is like a type of beetle that somebody discovered for some crazy reason, that if you crush it up, the beetle has like a sort of red pigment. So to be fair, a lot of companies I think have stopped using cochineal because they do like to keep their products open for everyone. I think they're being a bit more inclusive nowadays and avoiding using that, but it is something that is in some products, so definitely one to look out for, really. So last of all, I love and respect animals a lot more now. There's places that I used to go to prior to being vegan, like zoos for example, and I never actually considered how awful it is that these animals are behind the cages. And yes, after I went vegan and sort of belonged to a few groups on Facebook and that sort of thing, it did make me realise just how awful that is. I mean, zoos always have the signs everywhere that say that they're doing great conservation work and this and that, but at the end of the day they are still a for-profit organisation. They are still keeping these poor animals locked up behind cages just for our entertainment, which when you think about it is truly awful. So due to this, I've avoided zoos since then, really. There's a few animal sanctuaries in the southwest of England which generally as a family we'll go to instead. So there's one quite close to me, Fern Animal Sanctuary, that's really nice, just like a little sanctuary that you can go and see their sort of smaller animals that they've rescued. And you can also adopt cats and dogs there as well. We adopted our cat from there, Serenity. So it's a really great place, not far from me. And another place that we like to go is Sidmouth Donkey Sanctuary. Now this is, I think they've got a few sanctuaries in England. I'm not sure where the other one is offhand, but the Sidmouth one was the one we visited earlier on in the year, and it was a really lovely sanctuary. They were talking to everybody about what they're doing and how they've rescued so many donkeys from China and brought them here, and they just do so much to help the donkeys. They help them to recover from whatever they've been through in these other countries, and it's just amazing, really. And you can usually tell if it's a sanctuary or a zoo sort of thing, because sanctuaries generally you won't have to pay, but they will accept donations if you wanted to. So yeah, and you can of course adopt donkeys as well, which is what I did when we got back from the donkey sanctuary earlier on in the year. which is lovely. Then you can see them on the live webcam, and they send you updates about them all the time, which is really nice. So yeah, definitely love and respect animals a lot more. Never actually thought how bad it is for us to keep pets in cages as well. Like, when you think about it, we keep birds and small rodents all locked up in cages, and it's not nice for them, really. It's not where they want to be, but just sadly, because they've been bred by us for so long, they probably wouldn't survive out in the wild on their own, because they just wouldn't anymore, and that's what makes it worse. So I refuse to support any of those pet stores that are constantly breeding the rodents. And I did myself, I'm not perfect, I did myself have 2 rats a few years ago. I did buy a massive cage for them to run around in though, because I think I got them just before I went vegan. But then as soon as I went vegan, I was just thinking, whoa, wait a minute, what am I doing? It was like, something clicked in my head, and I realised how awful it is to keep rats in a cage. And I planned to get a bigger cage anyway, because it's much nicer for them. So I just got them this huge chinchilla cage, which they loved, and I got them out as much as I could, when they were alive. And they were lovely little rats. So I don't think it's terrible to keep small pets, but I think rescue is always the way to go, because people generally want something and they want it now. They're not always patient enough to wait for what they want to be, to go and adopt it, as it were. They'd rather just go to the pet store and get a fish, or but personally, if I did, I don't think I would get another small rodent again. I find it too sad, because they don't live very long, and rats in particular are just prone to a lot of health issues, sadly. So yeah, for me, I probably won't get any more in the future anyway, but if I was to, rescue is always the better option. When you think of cats and dogs, there's so many animals out there that perhaps aren't the cute little puppies anymore, but they still need a home. And yeah, it's just sad. Oh, if I think about it too much, the whole thing makes me sad. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video. I think it was mostly just me rambling on about veganism. Everything that I've said today, I did actually write in a blog post for my friend Grateful Green Life. So if you get a chance, check out her website. It's really lovely. She's got lots of eco tips, and she's an amazing gardener as well. And she did write a blog post for my blog as well, where she basically outlined everything that she'd learned since she went vegan. So do check that out as well if you get a chance. That would be awesome. And of course, as always, like and subscribe. That really does help me out.